Our speaker today is Al Bresloff. He's a return speaker. He was with us last year and maybe some years beforehand. I don't know, but definitely last year. Al is the host of Around the Town Chicago, and he has his finger on the pulse of entertainment and dining in Chicago with up-to-the-minute reviews on both subjects. He also has a radio show that is going to be on Sunday afternoons on WCPT, 8:20 a.m. 1 o'clock, did you say? 1 o'clock every Sunday afternoon. I'm sure it will be very interesting. The man knows what he's doing when it comes to radio. I was the lucky recipient, or actually lucky participant, to be interviewed by him a number of years ago for a book that I had co-authored called Entertaining Chicago. So he knows of what he speaks. Please welcome Al Bresloff.
Man,
Yes.
okay. I've been turned on. All right. Welcome to me, and I'm happy to be here again and to talk about one of my favorite things, which is theater. Live theater is booming, and in Chicago, it's getting better and better. They refer to us as a second city. We are, when it comes to theater now, we've become number one. They are bringing more shows in here before they go to Broadway, because the response is so different in Chicago versus New York. New York theater goers, for the most part, are people from all over the world who are visiting. The people who live in New York are not the people who run to the theater. In Chicago, it is the theater people that make it happen. The people who live on the North Shore, the people who live in the South suburbs, who come downtown and go to the larger theater. So when it comes to shows, movie, brand new things like a movie that was just converted to a musical, which is Death Becomes Her, it's an amazing way to transform it. And it is already knows October, it'll open in New York. So if anybody wants to see it before it goes to New York, you can still see it for the next couple of weeks here in Chicago. Theater is something that I got into as a youth, doing plays in high school, and fell in love with being involved with theater, and then tried my luck as a professional actor and went to New York and Detroit and all these wonderful places. And you realize it's a wonderful life until you're out of work. When you're out of work and you got to pay the rent, you got to go drive a cab or you got to go sell shoes. And then settling down, having kids and everything, it took me away from it. But I was able to get back into it because of my knowledge and being able to review. And I started reviewing for newspapers about 25 years ago. And then 5 years ago, I got a radio show, and we're doing more and more things. We're working with putting the radio show online so people can, if they can't listen to it, they can hear it later. I interview people from all the theaters and what's going on, not just in theater, we do restaurants as well, because it ties in. You're entertaining. That's what we do. We go out. We go out for dinner. We go see a play. You try to put it all together. So a lot of the restaurants want to be tied into it, which is something that I love doing. One of the things that I try to explain to people about theater is when you see a play, there are people, including my wife, who will say, I've seen that before. Well, you haven't seen it before. You've seen a production of it, because a new director, a new cast of players, a different venue is going to change that play. I've seen West Side Story in 19 different places. And in all cases, there's something different about that show, something different about how they do a dance number, something, the choreographer does different things. So when people say to you, have you seen it? You can only say, I've seen a production of it, or I've seen it 2 or 3 times. We have over 100 theaters in Chicago, and theaters that are disappearing because of what happened during COVID are looking like they're coming back. The Apollo Theater on Lincoln Avenue, which was closed from the time that COVID came, and then reopened just recently with a musical number, The Choir of Man. I don't know if anybody's heard about it, but it's a really, really neat show that takes place in a bar in Ireland. The show was done in New York, and then they brought it in and for Broadway in Chicago, and it was okay on a big stage. The Apollo Theater is one of those, like, you're this close, and it worked really, really strong. The problem they have to close it this weekend, but they're coming back in September. When it comes back, you're going to want to see it. Okay. The only reason that they had to go now is they had commitments other places. It was extended for 31 days. And that's as far as they could go. So I don't like to talk too much about everything, about all the plays that are going on. If I can answer questions, it's better, because then I can fill in what you want to know about things that you want to know. But I want to let you know about a few things theater-wise that are happening as far as magic. Magic has become very big in Chicago. Chicago is where it all started with the table magic and bar magic. That's where they did it all. But now we have actual theaters that are geared for magic productions. You've got downtown, you have Dennis Watkins doing his wonderful show that he did at the Palmer House for years, is now done in Pecorino's restaurant. The downstairs area has now been made into a theater. And he does his magic show. He only allows like 40 people to come. And everyone who sits in that audience has an opportunity to be in one of the, I don't know if you want to call it tricks. I think they don't like to call it tricks. I think they like to call it illusions. Sounds better, right? So I think if you like magic, you got to know about that one. The other one is a thing called the Chicago Magic Lounge, which is on Clark Street, and you don't know it's there. It looks like a laundromat, and you walk into the laundromat and you push the button for service, and the washers and dryers part, and you go into this little lobby, and then they take you in. And they bring you into a little library, and they tell you all about all the magic that started in Chicago, and they show you all the things on the wall. And if your name's on the list, the library doors open, the books disappear, and you walk into a theater. And at the theater, which is it's levels of 5 different levels of tables, very cabaret, while you're waiting for the show to begin, they come to your table. There are usually 8 or 9 magicians come right to your table and do the magic right there. Your hands touch the cards. You are the people involved. It's amazing magic. Because you're seeing it right then and there. You try to catch them, you can't. And then they put on a show. There's another one called the Rhapsody on Morse Avenue. If anybody knows Morse Avenue from the old Ashkenaz days, if you go a little bit east of there, there was a theater called the Morse Theater. It was a movie theater. Well, it is now called Rhapsody. It is now a cabaret magic performance show. And here's what I want to do. Okay, if anybody's really into magic, and the gentleman they have right now, his name is Dan Williamson, is a comedian as well. So he does some great comedy. If you want, you can read about it on my website. It's aroundthetownchicago.com. And more importantly, I have some tickets to give away. Okay, so if someone really wants to go in the next couple of weeks to see magic, and you'll be able to go, you'll make your own arrangements when to go. If you raise your hand, this is on Morse Avenue. If you want to go see it, I have 10 pairs of tickets I can give away. So if you do that, then somebody can, we can get your names, and we'll get all the names for me, and then I'll get there, and then we'll work it out for them before the day's over. Okay, cool. All right, so I want to make sure I do that for people. All right, anybody have any questions about what's going on in theater, or anything that you think you'd like to ask?
We need to get microphones to anyone.
Oh, I didn't get the first one you said, of the first play that you said is in town now. That's going to New York.
Oh, the one that's going to New York, it was made from a movie. They made it into a musical. It's Death Becomes Her.
Oh,
You remember the movies back? I think it was in the 80s. Might have been the 90s, but late 80s. I think Goldie Hawn and Bruce Willis was in it. It's a story about an aging actress who has a frenemy. You know what a frenemy is?
No.
It's a friend who's also an enemy. So it's somebody who she's kind of in competition with that one-upmanship type of thing. And her friend comes to visit her, who's a writer, and her brings her fiance, who's a plastic surgeon. Well, this aging actress wants a plastic surgeon. If she could have one at her bedside, it would be kind of neat. And so she goes after and steals him. And then later, her writer friend comes back, who's now glamorous and gorgeous. And she discovers that there was some kind of secret. And the secret is never aging. And there's witchcraft involved. And they both end up with the same. It's a wonderful story.
And what theater
And the
is
plastic
this?
surgeon.
What theater is
This
this?
is at the Cadillac Palace. I think it's got until June 9th.
Okay.
Might be the 2nd. So check it out. And I said, it's going to go to New York. It's opening in October. I think the 2nd week of October in New York. It'll probably play 5 months before they do a road show. When they do the road show, Chicago will be first on the road show coming back. It always is. And anything that's open, that's usually how it works.
Yesterday, I saw The Music Man at the Marriott in Lincolnshire. It's about the 3rd or 4th time, and it's in the round. How many of you seen Music Man at the Marriott? It's a great show. Yeah, Elliot's seen, and you may think it's a little corny, but it's a wonderful show. The music is terrific, and somehow they got the Wells Fargo wagon to come up on that stage. Amazing. Go see it. We're not going to be there very much longer.
Right, it's one of part of their season. Also, there's a show out in Aurora that Marriott did a couple of months ago called Beautiful. The Carole King story. Okay, a lot of people missed it. Marriott was the first theater to be able to get it in a regional theater. It did Broadway, and then it came to Chicago and traveled, and now they made it available. So in Aurora, there's a theater called the Paramount Theater, which is an unbelievably gorgeous theater that does productions that are amazing. From day one, since they opened, they have been winning Jeff Awards left and right. It's just an amazing theater. So they're doing Beautiful right now. And the young lady that's playing Carole King, if you closed your eyes, you would swear she was there. That's how powerful it is. And everybody in that production. And Paramount has 2 other theaters now. So they're doing they've grown to become a theater community. The downtown area now has 3 theaters, all run by the same people and run perfectly at very affordable prices. Drury Lane will be doing Beautiful next year. Okay, once it's available, everybody wants it. So my wife says, we have to go see Beautiful all these times. And I said, yes, Jane, it's a different show, different stage, just like Music Man in the round. All the number of dancers that they had on that stage doing those numbers was mind-boggling. Nobody fell off the stage. Okay, you would swear they're going to fall off. I mean, they were right to the edge in a couple of the numbers. And then when they did bring the wagon, which is a golf cart that they converted, they built onto a golf cart. They made it look like the Wells Fargo wagon. And then at the end, when they bring the band out, they had them on that same wagon. They just took off the Wells Fargo. I mean, they didn't build 2 of them. They only had the one. But yeah, Marriott does some marvelous work. And a lot of they just reopened the Metropolis in Arlington Heights. And I don't know how many people had been to the Metropolis. Anybody here recently or in the old days? Okay, all right. Recently, they now have a managing director and an artistic director who care about theater. Before that, they didn't. They were only worried about money, writing grants and getting all these things, which is important because theaters don't make it on the money that you pay to come in. They need to get these endowments and grants and all the other things. But the people that are running it now care about theater as well. And they just put on 9 to 5. I think it closes this weekend. But a decent production. They don't have the best stage in the world, but they do have very comfortable chairs. and it's very affordable to go there. And the beauty of going to Arlington Heights is the parking is free, which my co-host on the radio show lives for. He hates paying for parking. But the other part is that there are probably 15 restaurants in walking distance. So you can park your car, you can go, every time you can go to a different restaurant and not repeat yourself. Now, during the summer months, they have Sunday concerts, or Thursday night, I think, and they have all the restaurants have outside seating. They close the street to cars. So you can walk around and go from restaurant to restaurant. You can sit at the restaurant when they do the outdoor concert and listen to the music while you're enjoying your meal. So it's kind of a cool thing for Arlington Heights to do, to bring it back. Downtown Arlington Heights, it's called the Metropolis Theater. Another thing, if you're right in the neighborhood, I don't know how many people have been to Writers Theater in Glencoe, but Hershey Felder is doing his Monsieur Chopin right now. If you've never seen Hershey Felder perform, do it. Find a way to get a ticket if there's any left. It is a magnificent one-man show where he literally becomes Chopin. He is, and he talks to you, he plays for you, and when he plays, it's magical. And what this theater, when he did it originally, it was at a place called the Royal George down on Halston. And at the Royal George, you had a regular stage. So when you're looking, you couldn't see his hands clearly, unless you had the best seats in the house. At Writers, because of the elevated tiered seating, everyone can see his hands on the piano. And watching that alone, I've always wanted to play the piano, never could. It just makes me feel this is amazing. It's magic, and it's magical to watch. So if you haven't seen that one, you want to see that one too, because I don't know how. I think that's got 2 more weeks. I think it's the end of the month, and then a week, June 2nd or June 9th. Okay, somebody else had a question?
There's a question online I can ask. Howard Bartman is asking, do they have any T-coils at any of the magic shows for hearing assistance?
Do they have any?
T-coils, something that allows a hearing person with a hearing aid to
Yes.
pick up the
Yes,
electronic.
most of the theaters have, and I'm not wearing my hearing aids today, so they do have the loop. Is that what they call it, the loop?
Yes,
Okay, most of them have that, and they also have these things, amplifiers that you can get from, when you get there.
okay.
Okay,
And
but
I guess-
most of just so you know, on the magic things, they are mic'd. They make sure that the sound system reaches out, because I went without my hearing aids the other night, and I heard everything clear as a bell.
Got it. I have a couple questions if you're ready for questions now.
Well,
Well, one is that my brother's an actor, Joe Mantegna, and he got his start at the Organic Theater along with Dennis Franz and Meshack Taylor. My question is, the Organic was just that, and a place where the young actors really got a jump start, and some of their programs then went to New York. Is there a similar program theaters in Chicagoland that are like the
absolutely.
places where the cutting edge people who we're going to hear about in the future are
We
learning?
We have a program, a lot of things that are going on, but there's a thing called theaterinchicago.com. Theater is spelled R-E, and on that website, there is a place where it says auditions. And every week, all the auditions come up there. There are auditions for a lot of non-equity theaters, and we have tons of non-equity. Those are the startups. Those are the small. There's a company called the Blank Theater Company. There's a Outer World Theater Company. And all of these avant-garde or smaller theater companies are looking for actors to come in. And a lot of people go in, and even there's one called Theo Ubique, which is a restaurant, a dining theater cabaret, and it's strictly a non-equity house, which means you don't have to be a professional actor. When they have open auditions, anyone is welcome. And if you go in there and they hire you. You get paid a little bit, but you get something to put on your resume. Some of them don't pay. Some of them don't have any budgets at all. Theo Uberke, the way that they pay the actors there is at the end of the night, they take out of all the money they took in, they take out what is the money that it costs them to operate that day, and the rest of the money is split between the actors. That's how they get paid. So they might get $18 one performance, they might get $67 the next performance. So if they do 5, you know, most of them have regular jobs. This is their love. This is what they want to do. It's like community theater. Everybody who does community theater knows they're not getting paid for it. They do it and give up their time because they want to be on stage. Some of them are hoping that somebody sitting in the audience is going to say, that's somebody I can use in my play. Doesn't happen often. I did it for 3 years. I can tell you.
Another question. What about the creative side, the writing? David Mamet was a young writer that became famous through his work in Chicagoland.
But we have
Are there new playwrights that you feel are
all
coming
the
on?
theaters have that available as well. Every theater has right now, not the Broadway in Chicago, that's a different story, but Steppenwolf, the Raven Theater up on Clark Street, all of those theaters have what they call writing programs, where if you have a small script you want to bring in, those with the Skokie Theater just started doing it. In fact, one of the ladies that writes reviews for me wrote a play and wanted to do a reading of it in public. So we went to the Skokie Theater and they said, fine, you can come and do it. They set it all up for us. And we got about 95 people that came to see it. And then she got criticism from the audience as to changes that need to be made. And now she's working on the changes. So and he said that when the show is ready, he'd like to put it on. So she has an opportunity to show her work and get it done just by asking. But every theater wants to be involved with something. Like you get the Goodman Theater. Last night I went to see a play called English, which is written by somebody, an Iranian. It's about Iran and the people. And the story, the person who wrote it just sent in the script and said, look what I wrote. And they modified it. They made changes with him, and now it's on stage, and who knows what'll happen next.
Al, do you think COVID has changed anything in the way of content?
COVID changed a lot in the beginning. I noticed there are a few masks here, and a few masks there. There are some theaters, the small theater that will require masks to be worn. And the reason is they don't have understudies and they can't afford to lose an actor. They can't close for 10 days because no revenue, they'd have to give money back and they need to go. So the smaller theaters are theaters that have like 25 seats and 30 seats, believe it or not. And they rely on doing every show because they paid the rent. So they do require masks. There are some theaters that on Saturday and Sunday matinees, because they have a lot of seniors. One theater with a Wednesday matinee at Citadel up in Lake Forest, they do Wednesday matinees in every run that are mask required. Because at one case, when they first, after COVID, they did 2 people in the cast got COVID.
That's helpful to know, but also has the content changed? Have the writers been producing different types, or is this a natural evolution? In other words, has anything, did the theater change because of COVID as far as what we're seeing?
No, I don't think that changed it. I think there might be a story here and there that has COVID related, but for the most part, the plays going on, the plays are the plays. There's new things constantly coming out. And of course, the old tried and true are always there. You have theaters like Marriott, and you have theaters like Drury Lane. And we used to have one in Indiana as well. But Milwaukee, we cover Milwaukee as well. And Milwaukee does a lot of the same things that we're seeing here. In order to sell tickets and have a season, a company like Marriott or a company like Drury Lane or even Aurora, they all have to have shows that will attract people to buy the season subscription. You're not going to buy, if there's 5 shows and you don't like 3 of them, you're not subscribing. It probably won't even, there are people who also say, hey, they're doing the same show they did 5 years ago. I saw it, I'm not going to subscribe. They lose subscribers. And like I said, people just don't think about it. Just because you saw it 5 years ago doesn't mean it's the same production you're going to see, because it's the same music, it's the same story, but different interpretation. It changes the whole look. And it took my wife 5 years of going to see plays before she realized it. She said, finally, she said, you know, you're right. This was really different. I said, well, good. I'm glad you discovered that, because I learned something new, and I let her think it was her idea.
Can you tell us your website again so we can
It's Around the Town Chicago.
around the town Chicago,
.com.
all one word.
Yeah, Around the Town Chicago. I'm on the radio on Sundays. WCPT is 8:20 a.m. and I'm on from 1 o'clock till 2. I also have on my website, besides my reviews of restaurants and theater, I put things that are going on in Chicago. And I don't know how many of you know who Paul Lisnick is from WGN. He's the political analyst. He also does a show that is about theater. It's called Behind the Curtain, where he interviews a lot of people. So his interviews are also on my website. So at the end of a review, if he's reviewed the people, if he's done an interview with them in the play that I'm reviewing, at the very end, there's a link right to the review, the interview with those people. So you get to learn more about the people in the cast. We try to work together to help each other. We're friends. We work for different radio stations, and but that's okay. We have no problem with that. And anybody who's noticing my cap, this is something else I've gotten involved with since last year. This is called Special Gifts Theater. Okay, has anybody heard of Special Gifts Theater? All right, you all know about the Special Olympics, right? All right, Special Gifts Theater is an opportunity for those people to be in theater and to put on productions and be actors and dancers and singers. And it is one of the most amazing things I've ever gotten involved with. I'm on the board now and helping them to do things and grow it a little bit. We have campuses and we do these plays in Libertyville, Winnetka, they're headquartered in Northbrook, we do Libertyville, Palatine, and all these different areas where the people who aspire to get self-confidence have an opportunity to become actors and do a 1-hour version of a major play. And one of the things that we look for right now is mentors, people who will work with these people and be on stage with them holding the script so that if they need help, they get help. Mentoring is an amazing thing. If watching somebody grow as a person and watching them perform, and when they get something right, to watch them take a little bow, and watching their parents and grandparents in the audience, there's nothing like it. It's one of the best feelings you can get in life. So if you ever want to get involved with something, Special Gifts Theater is the place to do. I always put things on the website about it, so you can read more about it. You can go to their website, specialgifts.org. Special Gifts Theater. It's really an amazing organization. Okay, any other questions? And I'll go on to restaurants if you want. I talk to you. I don't know how many of you, since you live on the North Shore, I don't know how many of you go out into the city and go for different and wild and woolly food. But we went to a place last week that I had never heard of before, and found I'm not real big on Thai food. Many years ago, I played the King in The King and I, and then I ate Thai food. Okay, because I wanted to feel like Siam. So but we went to a restaurant called Herb, Herb, on Broadway. Here's an unusual thing in the retail world. There's a restaurant that's open Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night. That's it. 4 o'clock till 10 o'clock, 3 days. And people are lined up with reservations. It's just an amazing experience to go. I have a review up if you want to take a look at some of the pictures. It serves, they don't have a regular menu though. It's a menu for two. There's a menu, all the menus are for two people and you pay per person, but you have, your minimum is two people. And then they have a 1, 2, and 3. So you have a regular, a deluxe, and a super deluxe type of thing where you get more food based on that. You don't get different. You get to pick more things from the list. But the food, the presentations were amazing and the food was even better. And I've never experienced anything like where they tell me what I'm eating. I don't get to pick. My wife says, well, what are we going to get? I say, I have no idea. The lady's going to just bring us food. And they did. They just brought us food and some of the things were so beautiful. I didn't want to put a fork into it. I said, what do I destroy art? I don't want to destroy art, but it's an excellent restaurant. Then one of my favorite restaurants is right here in the area. And there's I don't know if you heard of Sarah Stegner, okay, which is a Prairie Grass. Sarah is the most amazing lady I've ever met in a kitchen. She literally does things, volunteers things, and she cooks for people here and cooks for people there and does all these things. I do Santa Claus every year. At Christmas time, I feed the homeless people, like 400 people out on the south side. And last year we had a little problem with pies. The pie company that always delivered the pie said they couldn't do it. And Sarah came up with 85 pies on Christmas Day. She had people going crazy making pies and delivered them to the south side. So that's the kind of person she is. So I always tell people, if you want to have a great meal, this is a lady who will always give you something good. And if anybody, I was going to ask a question and maybe get an answer and send somebody there to try it. Has anybody here never, ever been to Prairie Grass? Looks like everybody's been there. Over on Skokie Boulevard, Prairie Grass on Skokie Highway in Northbrook. You've never been there? Okay, go there. You got to go there. Okay. So let's see what any other questions that we have. So I could talk about restaurants too. Yes.
They know that you're going to review them.
Sometimes, well, the publicist may know, the owner may know, the people who are working there don't know. They don't find out until they bring me the check. That's when they find out. But in all cases, what we do, we take a picture of the server, and the server is part of, I do a quiz on the following Sunday. The review goes up on my website, and then on Sunday, I will ask a question about the review. And it's usually the name of our server. And then the people at home can call in, tell me that name, and they get a gift card to go to that restaurant.
Wow.
So the restaurants do have to give me gift cards. That's part of the thing, but they love it. They literally find that first of all, they're getting a radio commercial. Secondly, they're getting a brand new customer guaranteed. And if they do their job right, that customer will be back again and bring other people. So for them, it's win-win all the way. I only started doing the restaurants because the restaurants came to me and said, how do we get on your show? And I figured out a way. Otherwise, I cut it down to how many because I don't want to gain too much weight. Because half the time I don't order anything. They just they keep bringing me food.
My favorite restaurant on the North Shore, in case you're interested, is, drum roll, Hole in the Wall. How many of you have been there? Isn't that a wonderful restaurant? Highly recommend. We recommend it. Okay, go there. It's great.
No, they are good. It's a very good restaurant. Yes.
Dinner theaters in the Chicago area?
Any what?
Dinner theaters.
Dinner theater is pretty much gone. The only place that we have Teatro Zinzani. I don't know how many people have ever heard of Teatro Zinzani, but it's up, it's over it's on Randolph and Dearborn. And it's upstairs of a hotel. It used to be, it's where the Oriental, which is now the Niederlander Theater, upstairs on the rooftop. They found up at the very top of this building, they found there was a ballroom that had a 28-foot ceiling, a dome. And they converted that into a dinner theater program. And it is like a Circus Soleil, and dinner is part of it. In fact, we have a new show coming in next week. I think I'm going when the opening is. And their food is actually good, and the show is fun. It's they serve the food. All the meal is served as part of the show. So as they're doing certain things, it's time to eat. And then there's time for the salad. They do something funny with salad, and the next thing you know, your salad is at your table. But it's a fun place, and it's not cheap. I will tell you that. I think got to be about $100 and some odd a person, not counting drinks, and the drinks are a little expensive. But it's a fun experience. You're not going to do it on a regular basis. The old dinner theater, Milwaukee still has some. There's a few others that are going to be happening. They used to have more things, but Marriott has a program where you can have dinner, but not at your table and watching a show. They have a dinner package where you save money on the dinner. Drury Lane does too. So all of these have, if you ask, you can get into that kind of program. All of the comedy, not the comedy, the magicians, these theaters have meals involved as well. So that you can eat at the table while you're watching. They have more at Rhapsody. It's like pizza, dips, hummus and vegetables and that kind of stuff. They're waiting he's trying to get a restaurant to come in to do more, but right now he's limited to what's available to him. But the dinner theater, those were the 60s. Those were fun days.
The space that was from a hotel in Lincolnwood now has 3 restaurants in it. And Fat Rosie's is very good Mexican, very cute space. Fat Poor, they just opened. It's a huge sports bar, lovely space. And then Devante is there too, Italian. I wasn't impressed with that one, but the other 2 were really fun and interesting.
Lincolnwood, the new hotel and restaurants.
Hold on. Lincolnwood has a couple of new restaurants. Is it 3? I've eaten at 2 of them. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
What's your view of the Oil Lamp Theater in Glenview?
Oil Lamp is getting ready for their next show. I think the show they're running right now is just about over. The next show opens next week or the week after. But Oil Lamp if anybody's never been to Oil Lamp, it's kind of a fun little theater. It started in their home. When the very beginning of Oil Lamp was the gentleman that was running it. He's no longer doing it, but he would have a dinner party at his house. 20 people would come for dinner. And then after dinner, they would move and there would be a play put on. And then they'd go back to the dining room for dessert and coffee. And then they took this little storefront on Glenview Road, right near Waukegan. And there's 2 storefronts together. And they converted that into a theater on one side, which holds, I think it's 82 people. And then the other side is a beautiful bar, like a reception area. And the beginning was a BYOB. Now they've changed it. They got a liquor license where they can sell you and make a little money because, again, I think their tickets are $40 or $45 or something like that. So you don't make a lot of money when you got to pay actors, even if they're non-equity, which they are. There's still something you're paying them, and you got lights to pay and rent to pay and taxes to pay and everything else. But they do some on a very small stage. In fact, this may be bigger than their stage or pretty close to it. Because remember, it's a store, so it's only like 20 feet wide. They have 6 seats in a row. That's it. And the stage, there's a little aisle on each side, and that's about where the stage, that's the space of it. So it's a very small theater. They're limited as to what they can do. They can't put on big shows, but what they do is very clever and cleverly done. And it's a nice little thing. They can park, Glenview's not far to go. You don't have to fight the traffic on the Edens and worry about where's the lane that I used to take? It's gone. I go downtown 5 days a week. Okay, 5 nights a week we're driving on the Edens, and my wife just takes a nap, and I just do the driving because she doesn't even want to know. Why do we leave so early? Well, because it takes an hour and a half. It's like going to Milwaukee takes an hour, but it takes an hour to come back. It's the same hour. Going downtown takes an hour and a half to get downtown, but we're home in 25 minutes. Which my grandson, the first time I took him to a play, he said, "Did you take a different route? How did we get home so fast?" He took a nap. I said, "Adam, wake up." He said, "How can we be here? It took us all day to get down there." Yes, so
Hi, there used to be a wonderful Mexican restaurant in the city on the southwest corner of Ashland and Montrose. And the owners were trained years ago by Rick Bayless, so they had the best mole sauce around. That's how you really know a good Mexican restaurant. Do you know if they ever opened? They closed prior to
they have not
COVID?
reopened.
No, they're
In
not
fact,
open.
I believe I drove by last week. I think it said for rent.
Well, I was going to ask you, do you know if they opened up another restaurant or have plans
I can check and get back to somebody on that because I don't really know if they have. I just found a very neat little breakfast Mexican restaurant in Lincolnshire. And I think it was an egg experience before, an egg something, Egg Harbor, one of those egg things. And now it's called something that it's Plenty of Huevos or something like that. It's a very unusual name, but we got lots of eggs. But their French toast was totally unique. Everything that we had was more Latino Mexican. It was very Mexican. But I'll check on a few things because I write for a Spanish paper called Nueva Semana, and he knows pretty much where everything is. I write for a Russian paper as well because I don't have enough to do. And now I'm looking at a newspaper on the south side. We're going to buy it because I'm bored. I don't, like my son says he doesn't understand what I have an hour free. Can I talk to you?
Al,
Okay.
back in the day.
Which day?
Way back in the day.
Way back. Okay.
Way back in the
It's
day.
the George M. Cohan days.
We would, maybe not, but a little after that, the Chicago Theater was a place where, regular guys and gals could go take a date, see a variety show, maybe see Sinatra, Martin and Lewis, Perry Como, and a movie. Did Ed Sullivan basically kill that, or is there anything like that where variety, not just theater, in the sense?
Yeah, there's actually a lot of stuff like that. The Des Plaines Theater in downtown Des Plaines was taken over by Ron Ernesti, who's the Arcada in St. Charles. Ron Ernesti puts on some unbelievable variety shows and concerts, and you have to kind of look at Onesti on a regular basis to see what they have. But they took this theater. They have on the main floor, they have what was a movie theater has become their venue, which has, I think, about 1,200 seats. They took another section and put it in a pizza restaurant. Then they have a bar with some other food. And then upstairs, you have to go through a fake wall again. But they have a speakeasy. And all of you who remember furniture that was covered in plastic, my aunt and my grandmother's, those couches are up there in that speakeasy. You can't, it was a hot day when we went there and I sat down and I stuck to the plastic. And I felt like I was back in my kid days, where's my Bubby? I got to find her. I wanted something to eat. But it's a fun place, and they bring in all kinds of shows. And now there's places in the city. You're never going to get a movie theater with a live stage show anymore. That's never going to happen. Chicago Theater is owned now by a different organization. So they're part of a New York outfit. They bring in one night shows, and that's pretty much what they're, even the Genesee, if out in Waukegan, there's a fantastic theater that was converted to bring in all kinds of, they bring in plays for one day. And the reason that they do what they do on the road shows is if they had it for 4 days, they've got 2,000 seats, they might sell 150, 200 seats each day. Well, you got to pay for 4 days of hotel and all the other stuff. If you have it for one day, you're going to sell 600. All those people are going to go the day that you're doing it. And voila, you got the same money coming in and you're not spending as much going out. Even some of the shows, I think just this week, they're doing, I'm going at the Nederlander is doing for 1 week only, what is it called? Beetlejuice. Okay. It's only going to be here for 5 days. Why? Because they figured the amount of people that'll buy tickets for Beetlejuice, 5 days, they can fill it up. They do 10 days, they won't do it. They'll take in the same money, it costs them double. It's going to be in Milwaukee in the fall. So, you know, it goes a trip, it'll go to Missouri, it'll go to Iowa, it'll go all these places, it comes back to Milwaukee, it's only an hour ride. Oh, we'll see it then.
Could you give me some suggestions of restaurants where you can converse with your companions? So many of them are so noisy that you can't converse.
Really? I've never been to the, you mean during the day, you talking about like breakfast or lunch? Because most of the restaurants I go to at dinner time aren't that noisy. You don't want to go to a deli because it's always going to be louder to deli.
Were you wearing your hearing aid?
Well, yeah, if I'm going to the theater, I wear my hearing aids. My hearing is primarily that I wear hearing aids is because of enunciation into theaters. When I go to a theater where they're doing a musical, they're all wearing mics. So it's not a problem. When I go to the smaller theaters, it seems the young actors don't believe that they have to project to the last row. When I was an actor, the director used to walk around and sit at the back and listen, and he go louder, louder, because he wasn't hearing you. I have been to theaters where I'm in the third row, and that's like where you are to hear, and this is how they talk. It's like they're reading to themselves, and it's impossible to hear. When I'm wearing the hearing aids, the problem I have is not only do I hear them, but the lady in the back who just unzipped her purse for the 5th time to take out another piece of candy. I heard that. Okay. And then I heard the candy get unwrapped. So that's the problem I have with the hearing aids. And I got my hearing aids because of someone who reads my columns. She read a review that I wrote and she contacted me to tell me that I had a hearing problem. And I called her and said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Well, I saw the same show. I was sitting in a seat near you, and I saw what was going on, and I heard what was going on. You evidently think you heard what was going on." And I went back to see the play and sat in the second row, and sure enough, she was right. So I went in, took a hearing test, and started wearing hearing aids. For certain things, I do put them on. My wife would like me to wear them all the time, but I hear everything that's happening. So they're way too attuned to that.
Yeah, but she's right. There are restaurants that are just too noisy.
Really? Okay. Give me a name of them so I can I'll call them and tell them to quiet it.
Wildfire's one of them.
Really? Okay, it depends on what time of day, doesn't it? Yeah, dinner time. Because people are drinking then and they're a little louder. Go for lunch, it's not so bad. And the prices are lower. You go to the early bird specials.
Back in the day, the Schubert was, again, we're talking maybe the 50s, 60s. The Schubert Theater was where when something big was there, if you took your date there, you know you were at the premium spot in Chicago. Is there a premium theater today where
No, you know, the Schubert is still sitting there. It's still there. The Schubert Theater is now, see, this year it's a CBIC bank. I think it's been LaSalle Bank. It's been a Bank of America. It's been a bunch of different names. But to me, I still call it the Schubert. And it's just like it's hard to say Cadillac Palace. You know, I remember it being the Bismarck. So it's and I remember the Oriental being the Oriental. They've changed that name a few times.
the Blackstone? How about that?
Hmm?
The Blackstone Theater?
Well, the Blackstone Theater is long gone. Okay, but the you know what is reopened now on Michigan Avenue is the Studebaker Theater, and the Studebaker is going to be hosting lots of things. They just had last night. They had a special concert for Season of Concern where they had 22 of Chicago's performer ladies do a concert to raise money for Season of Concern, which is Season of Concern is a nonprofit that helps actors who are sick or have financial problems. And last night, I think they raised about $45,000 or $50,000 last night to help some of the actors. But the Studebaker is back, and they just did a week ago. Porchlight did a special concert of Sunday in the Park with George, which is Sondheim's unbelievable story of Surratt and his painting. So we have plenty of theaters, and somebody is looking at the Royal George now to buy the building and hopefully not tear it down for anything else, but to find a way to revitalize it. It had a restaurant. It had 2 theaters downstairs and theaters upstairs. So I would hope that they can do it. You know, the Steppenwolf just added another theater to their thing where they're doing a wonderful little play called the Thanksgiving Play. Try to imagine you're a grammar school teacher who's about to lose her job because you're teaching about Indians, American Indians, but you don't have any American Indians in your class, and Thanksgiving is appearing, and they want a play. So she goes out and hires somebody to be Indian, an American Indian, an actress. And it turns out she's not an American Indian, she's Puerto Rican. And there's 2 other people who are involved, and it's an hour and a half of pure havoc and slapstick. And just when we sat in the first row, which I really didn't want to, because my wife has a tendency when there's no music to doze off. And I don't want to be in the first row because actors, just imagine you're an actor and there's the critic and next to him is somebody, you're not going to really emote from that point. You're going to be thinking, what the hell kind of review am I going to get? Yeah. Who knows? But she stayed awake for the entire thing and loved it. And then we got in the car and she called her best friend and said, you got to go see this play. Doesn't happen often. And I started to applaud, but I was driving, so I had to keep, one hand on the wheel because I'm not used to her doing that, and I love her very much. She's not into theater the way I am. She won't go 5 nights a week. Sometimes she'll take 2 off. What
theater is that?
That's Steppenwolf is that one. Steppenwolf has this new in the round theater that they just added. And it's just an amazing because it's really close stadium seating, so everybody can see everything. And it's only 4 people in the show, and they're all 4 dynamic, and it's just energy, high energy. And you want to see it. It's called the Thanksgiving Play.
Al, did you say you eat out 5 nights a week?
Eat out 5 nights a week?
Yeah.
I go out 6 nights a week.
How do
I eat out 4 or 5.
How do you maintain your weight? You look pretty trim.
Well, I walk in the halls a lot, and I park far and walk. I drop my wife off, and then I park, and then I walk, and I walk at a pretty good clip.
Al, question about driving every day. Do you feel safe going into the city? You hear a lot of seniors saying, I kind of avoid going there. You're an advocate for us getting out more. And you're a perfect example of someone who's doing it every week. So you want to talk.
Every week I do what I can. I'm gonna be 82 this year and I feel like I'm 40.
Maybe that's what's keeping you young.
That's what my grandson says. And he says, the more you do, the younger you get. So I said, then I'll keep doing more. until why not? If you can do it, don't knock it.
I've got something I'd like to add to what you said at the opening of your talk as it pertains to theaters in Chicago. My daughter is a musician in New York, frequently plays on Broadway. And when she's in a show that's got a pretty good run to it, my wife and I try to go to New York so we can see it. And quite honestly, as a parent, it's a thrill for me to see my daughter or hear my daughter playing for a Broadway production. But the theaters in New York, by comparison to the theaters here, are dumps. Absolute dumps.
And tiny.
Well, that too, yeah. So what Al was saying about, Chicago being number one glaring example, and the other one you were talking about, was it Chopin?
Yeah, Chopin
Okay.
theaters.
How many of you saw a show here that ran here about a year ago called Goodnight Oscar? Fabulous. Do you know who Sean Hayes is? Okay. I happen to remember the specific night that show is written about. And I'd said to my wife, how are they gonna deal with the music? This was about Oscar Levant.
Right.
How are they gonna deal with the music? Sean Hayes sat down and played Rhapsody in Blue, no music in front of him. I just sat there with tears coming
Every
down.
night.
Fabulous.
Twice on
Yeah.
Wednesday, Saturday.
Yeah. My daughter's currently playing, there's a new show that opened up a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple of months ago now. It's called The Great Gatsby, a musical based on The Great Gatsby. We're hoping that it has a long run, because if it is, we'll go there in the fall, and catch it. But the interesting thing about that one, the producer is Korean. He's the money behind it. Fell in love with the story, with The Great Gatsby, and through the process got it turned into a musical. So are there any more questions? Because we're getting down towards our time limit here.
There's a young lady here.
Is this the lady in the balcony?
Thank you. I would like to tell you about a new restaurant. It's in Des Plaines. It's on a lake. It's called the Foxtail on the Lake.
Right.
And it's a beautiful restaurant. I took my daughter there Saturday night for her birthday, and it used to be a church.
I know.
And they
Going there
turned
next
the
Wednesday.
church into a restaurant, and it has beautiful, beautiful artwork in it. And you can sit outside or inside, and the food was good.
Yeah, we're going there Wednesday. Next, not tomorrow, the next.
And I would also add one of the loudest restaurants I've ever been in. So you don't need your hearing aids.
No, don't worry about that. Also, for those who don't know, Perry's Steakhouse just opened up in Vernon Hills. And it's an amazing steakhouse. But they also have something, I'm not a big pork chop eater.
You eat small ones?
Hmm?
You eat small ones then?
Yeah, but they have a 7-finger pork chop. That's how high it is. And they have a 5-finger on Friday. Here's what they have on Friday at lunch. They have a pork chop dinner that is $19.95, and 2 people had leftovers. That's how big the thing is. And they're the nicest people in the world, and it's a wonderful little spot. I've been to the Oak Brook in Schaumburg, and I just went up. We did I do a TV show as well, and we went up there and did the TV show there, which
Any
you
more
can
questions?
see on my website, by the way.
All right, Al, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure.
It's good to meet you.